Hello, this is Debbie with Light Up Your Worth. I am so excited for today's episode. I am bringing in my dear friend, Erin Ann Barcellos. And I am so excited, like exuberant, really, to bring her in. Erin and I met many years ago, about 7 or 8 years ago, actually, through a personal development program that we were both part of. And it was life changing, this program. Really was a major milestone. And our friendship developed through there. And a very particular incident of us meeting one night as we were going to do a challenge in our towards the end of the program to actually graduate, and it was a physical challenge, and it just really solidified our connection, and now we actually live close to each other. So we are been connected at a soul level for many years now, and so I am so excited to have you be introduced to her and her magical world. So, welcome, Erin.
Hello. Oh my gosh, you just got me so excited. If I wasn't sitting down, I would be like dancing and jumping up and down. Thank you for that beautiful introduction and nice warm welcome.
Oh, yeah, it was such a, I think about that one last night, where we're doing the challenge, and it was physically a challenging thing to help us, right? Break through some beliefs and blocks that we probably didn't even know we had. And they were just so brilliant about how they brought us all together for ourselves, but also the friendships that have occurred because of that program that continue after all these years. It's so remarkable. That to me really shows brilliance. Um, with how we do our work and how we show up, how we all find each other, right? In this, how we're all supposed to connect, and they were the vehicle to be able to do that. So wonderful. So
Yeah.
um, I, even though we are such good friends, I am really curious. There's so much that I don't know about your journey, your spiritual journey, and what brought you here, and this goodness, and how you really show up. Those listening, if you can just feel into the energy that Erin carries with her, it's it's really a divine place of peace and love. And she has this super calming energy. I find that if I feel like I'm spinning around, it's Erin I think of. Like, who's going to help me just get my feet back on the ground? And it's you, Erin. You do that. And so I know that, maybe we're born with it. I don't know. But I know that there's a story there. And I would love to hear how you have developed yourself and how this all began. So,
Oh, thank you. As just this conversation is just getting rolling, and I'm already feeling so deeply moved and almost brought to tears. So I feel like some tears might be coming up during our time together today. And truly, they are tears of humility. Um, because walking this path for me, I mean, I really want to kind of circle back to the introduction you made about talking about the program we did together and how vital that was for me, and I'm sure for you too, in way of that was the first real experience that I had where my commitment to love and my commitment to walking an unwavering path of love was really tested in a way and like ramped up. Like we were guided so perfectly and being challenged to leap over hurdles, all in the name of this commitment. And as I sit here with you and know that I'm opening my heart to those listening, it's humility that I feel. And in these major milestones in my life where they've been catalysts for my growth, or, the divine source has guided me to courageously take leaps of faith. Those experiences for me are always very humbling. Tears are rolling down my eyes. Sometimes I'm shaking in my boots. And as I'm beginning to share my story here, like I feel like that's a really important element to convey, is how real this journey has been for me and how powerful almost every single step has been. And yeah, from the outside, I might look a certain way, but if you really knew me on the inside, I feel like my life has been a series of these really powerful transformations, all of which have required an extreme amount of courage, an extreme amount of faith, or the desire to have faith if I wasn't really feeling faith filled. And yeah, so feeling the humility vibes, and tears might be flowing today.
Well, bring them on, sister.
Bring them on. All right, I'm gonna just like kind of share whatever I'm guided to from my story. My story really began in my teens, early in my teens, when I experienced a pretty significant trauma at 13. It was the trauma of sexual assault. And that really, if anybody listening has gone through that or something similar, it shatters you to the core. So my sense of identity, that sense of being violated, was really just rattled so extremely. And my way of dealing with that was through an extreme amount of anger, substance abuse. I kind of became a bully, and the adults in my life didn't know how to help me. And the traditional methods of therapy weren't my thing. Like, I didn't feel safe, I didn't feel comfortable. And what birthed from that, like what I did find that started to help me at such a young age, I'm talking like 14, 15 years old, was I received my first deck of oracle cards as a gift. And oracle cards are similar to tarot cards, but they're very, in my opinion, they're much more light and like positive in their wording, more positive in their pictures. And the deck I received was Healing with the Fairies. And the fairies are all about healing through fun, healing through connecting with nature. And that really resonated with me. So in a world where, or in that part of my life where I felt like my world was just dark, I found refuge and healing within these cards. And at first I started to pick them just because I thought they were pretty and I liked the fairies on the cards. And then I noticed that the messages on the cards were actually really helping me. And that really was the beginning of my journey into connecting with the spiritual realms and healing, the healing arts. And I'm grateful that I started so young, because I feel like a lot of my language that I naturally use, a lot of my natural thought processes are conditioned from reading so many spiritual books and really just using the cards so much. It like trained my mindset to be able to think in those ways. And I'm still fairly young, I'm 32 now. And so I've been on this journey for over 15 years. And I always have a place to go back to. You know, life isn't always easy. That certainly wasn't the only trauma I've experienced in my life. But I have like a reference point in my life, like that positive place of healing, those positive messages from the fairies or from the angels or the divine, spiritual thinking. Like I have a reference point that I've always been able to go back to. So by the time I graduated high school, um, in that 4 years, so I explained how it kind of started for me, but by the time it ended, I was volunteering to be a part of workshops that were led in the school that really helped students not feel so isolated in their lives, understand that they are loved, and come together with each other in connection. I taught my first workshop on spiritual healing and the law of attraction at the age of 17. So just like honing into my youth and adolescence, it really all started there. Now, I still struggled with deep things in my life. Some of the biggest things that I've struggled with has been my patterns in relationship. Like ever since I was young, I had this really deep desire for true love in my life, in partnership and in relationship. And I always felt like something was missing, or I felt like even though I could talk about love or that I wanted to create love in my life in all ways, my heart specifically felt very like disconnected from the feeling of love. So I proceeded throughout my life conceptually knowing about love and knowing that I wanted love in my life. But it took many, many years to really do whatever personal healing work in my own heart and emotional state to finally break through and be able to truly experience love in all areas of my life, and thankfully eventually manifest the partner that I was trying to manifest, which is amazing. And it took like over 10 years.
Wow. Wow. You know, I also do oracle cards, and we use the same deck. That was my first deck too. I did not know that. I mean, I know I've been drawn to that deck like over 20 years ago. It was like it was one of my first steps into really playing. And I love oracle cards. And like yourself, I have that same distinction, right? Somebody will say, oh, you do tarot. No, I don't do tarot. I do oracle cards because for me, they feel lighter. They feel more drawn to my soul as well and my spiritual team and the angels and the archangels that I connect in with. And so I had no idea that that was, you know, why. And it's a deck that really isn't, out there a lot anymore. Was somebody who was really, really big for a long time and isn't right now, right? And for her own personal reasons. And so that we have that same connection of originally connecting with the fairies as well, with their beautiful energies. Oh,
Yay.
oh my gosh, that's so
Yeah.
remarkable. It's just another way for everybody who's listening. You know, we talk about meeting people and connecting with people and how it really does connect organically through something. And then you find out once you've connected with them that there's all these synchronicities that really are, they were always there, and how the universe brings us together and how we when we're finding our peeps, right? Our peeps that you can truly be all aspects, all multi-dimensional parts of yourself. And it's beautiful. And that is pretty remarkable as well that at 17, you were already putting the light out to help your peers. Wow.
Whew. Yeah. Um, as soon as healing just became a lifeline for me. It was like there wasn't really a gray area to life for me. It was either I would be extremely suffering or like I was all in and committed to my healing path. And being committed to my personal healing path naturally tapped me into this innate sense of I'm supposed to help others. I'm supposed to help others. I'm being asked by the universe to help others. And the only way that I've been able to avoid that sense is temporarily through things like just completely checking out. And again, those are only temporary disconnecting aspects. So I've always just landed back in this place of, universe, please help me to be free from my own suffering. And in that answer, I guess, was, okay, yes, we'll help you, but we want you to help others too. And for a long time, I really wrestled with that. Gulp. What? Help others? Like in a big way? Like, are you sure? Like, you want me to do what? And so that first workshop at 17 was the first step. And I painting a picture of how my life has evolved. It's just always come back to that place after experiencing hardship, then desiring healing, asking the universe for healing, then getting a strong sense of, okay, now you're supposed to help others. I've also been really inspired in my life through the teachings of Tibetan Buddhism. And particularly, I studied Buddhism for 7 years, starting in college. And the Buddhism teachings talk about enlightenment as one being able to free themselves from the cycles of suffering. And we all know what suffering, the experience of suffering can be like during challenging moments. And to paint a bigger picture of Buddhist philosophy, it's more than that. It's the suffering of incarnating into a life over and over and over again, being kind of trapped in this cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. And in order to become free from suffering, it's bigger than just becoming free from the suffering of getting my heart broken over and over. It's almost like an opportunity was presented to me, like, oh, I'm a human being and I have the potential to really become free of the cycles of suffering in these big ways, the cycles of suffering from karma, trauma from past lifetimes. Then there's another element that Buddhism introduced, and that is the way of the bodhisattva. And the bodhisattva is known as a spiritual warrior who has the wish to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. And that has been the biggest inspiration for me. Again, at a young age, of, wait, yes, I want to be free from suffering because I'm tired of suffering. And then taking that free, like I want to be free from suffering and actually attain something bigger, this ultimate sense of love, this ultimate sense of unity, this ultimate sense of enlightenment. And that really resonated with me as a desire. And then there was this other piece of, as I do this work myself, I can dedicate my efforts out for the benefit of all beings. And that's one thing that I've actually really come to learn and understand in the healing process itself, that we are all connected. We are all connected. And whatever healing you do on yourself, naturally, it positively impacts the whole. I remember hearing on another podcast somebody did years ago. I don't even remember who the woman was, but I remember this phrase: I'm not done healing until we're all done healing.
Oh, I just got goosebumps. Oh,
And I'm the type of person that just shows up in the name of healing over and over and over and over again. I don't think that as long as we're human, I don't think we'll ever reach a place where we're fully healed and our healing journey is done. I think that as human beings, this journey will be ebbs and flows of good times and hard times. And granted, 15 years of inner work has got me to a place where I can confidently navigate hard times. But I'm always, my life still unfolds in ways which present obstacles and opportunities for healing. And I dedicate my life to showing up for that, to move through that, and for my own benefit, but for the benefit of all beings. That includes you, that includes every person listening, that includes, the people that I love in this lifetime, the people that I don't know on the planet, the people that I don't particularly like on the planet. But I do my healing work with the intention that it positively impacts everyone.
wow. Just have to take that in because the premise of starting Light Up Your Worth was that when we shine our light, when we do the work inside of us, shine that light out, it allows others to shine their light. And as life unfolds, even since this podcast has started in February of 2001, there's been so much unfolding of my life, right? As well as everybody else's life who's been on all the episodes. And we're all together creating this bigger light together by simply joining together through this podcast and individually all of the work that everybody's doing. And so that we can all feel that love and that light and really own our worth of who we are. And so, your ripple effect, for lack of, better words or more impactful words, but your ripple effect of owning as your life unfolds, you have the tools. And I think you hit on clarifying what sometimes people think, right, about healing work. You're 15 years in, and they think, well, aren't you healed yet? Right? You ever heard this myth? Oh, well, you should be done by now, right? Like I've received these same comments, right? You should be good by now. No, what you've learned is how to now navigate through the obstacles and the challenges that come through living confidently that you know that it will all work itself out and you have the tools to be able to navigate yourself through it. And it's ongoing. It's ongoing. It's like, no, unless my life stopped today or yours stopped today, it's not like something else isn't going to happen in a week from now or in how we respond to just everyday life. And,
Yeah.
and what would you add to that? Like when you have received those type of or similar type of comments, right? The same intent, like, aren't you done yet?
Right.
What are you still working
Well,
on?
in a way, it's, the inner work that I've done, I've reached tremendous milestones. And what I mean by that is the patterns that used to show up over and over, the same pain, the same grief, like it was years of trudging through that and healing deeper layers. And in many cases, if not most, honestly, where I'm at today, those patterns have been resolved. Those patterns no longer exist in my space. And I'm talking about like specific pains, my issues in my love life. I'm not saying issues don't arise in my love life, but I'm saying that the pattern that I kept repeating, those no longer show up. Um, the way that I've spent probably around 10 years healing the way that the sexual assault impacted the way I interact in love, that doesn't show up anymore. I had a miscarriage in 2017. And that grief and that trauma showed up for a few years. But then I got to a point where it doesn't. Like I'm at peace. So I do want to clarify that there is, in a way, like you can reach a place of true healing and resolve. And that still doesn't mean that I don't have stuff that comes up. I still have stuff that comes up. Trauma still happens. And when I talk about trauma, right, trauma is defined as going through something that exceeds one's ability to cope as it's happening. And when we don't have the tools to cope with it, typically it gets stored. It gets stored in our bodies, it gets stored in our psyches, it gets stored in our energetic emotional state. That probably influences those repeated patterns that we're having to heal for a long time, because we're learning how to really bring our beings, our psyches, our emotions back to a level of harmony. And we have to like heal those painful experiences and fully process them before they're no longer affecting us in our bodies. But now, when I experience a major event that could be considered like a trauma, I know what to do for myself. I know how to give myself the space to go into the depths of that pain so that it can be processed fully and not buried and have to be dealt with later.
Wow, that's so in unwrapping that just a little more is that when people are thinking about patterns, how I think about them are when you like I don't like being told what to do, for instance, right? Like we'll use the love example. You're in a relationship, even if you're getting to know somebody or you're in a committed relationship, and you like if I've worked on speaking up for what I need, acknowledging I have needs is a pattern. Learning over time to learn how to ask for what I need. And so then I've worked on that. And then where I can actually voice it, not thinking that, well, no, their needs are more important, or it's not a big deal. I think that's a common thing that I think I've seen with myself and other. It's not, it's not a big deal, but it ends up being a big deal when you've learned that you have needs, and then you start speaking up for yourself. So you work through that, and then the next level of it is, well, I've asked for it, and now you're not honoring it. And the same responses, I have some words that come to my mind, and they're not very polite. Um, and and I still can find myself going there. So even though I've learned that I actually have needs, that your needs aren't more important than mine, I can voice them. And then I voice them, and then they're not being honored is another pattern, like one of the patterns I'm working on now, right? Where you can voice them. So for the listeners, I wanted to give a specific example for myself with how these patterns are of what Erin's talking about, because it's so important. And I think the evolution of how we go through it is powerful to understand for people who maybe have been asked this themselves. Well, what are you working on now, right? And it's these small things. It's that automatic response that you're not going to take out the garbage because you think that I can do it, when I've clearly a voice. There's 5 things I really would like to make sure that you do in the household. One of them is, could you please always just take out the garbage? Something simple, right? Like, I just cannot stand to take out the garbage. And raised a son who automatically takes out the garbage, and now he's adult, comes home, first thing he does is check the freaking garbage. It's kind of cute. And but to voice it to a partner or somebody, and they're like, no, I'm not going to do it. And you're like, ooh, knowing that my first automatic response of what comes out of my mouth is my pattern. So when we have something that triggers us, that's the pattern. And what would you add to that, Erin? Like, when you think about what patterns, how can somebody listening identify what is a pattern?
I'm so glad you're touching on this. And just to clarify with the example that you just shared, thank you for being open and vulnerable to share your experience. It sounds like the pattern that you're referring to is the pattern of not honoring yourself and your needs and speaking to your needs by like making requests outside in the relationship. Is that,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, where before I wouldn't even voice them. I would just think them, get resentful. And then I learned that my needs are just as important, even something simple. Oh, no, it doesn't matter, because I would start storing them in my body. And um, that's when I started my struggles with my weight. And so that's how it showed up for me. Um, and so,
yeah, great. Yeah. So a pattern is any type of like behavioral pattern or something that just like shows up in a unhealthy way. And what I mean by an unhealthy way is I'm not talking about somebody else's judgment of unhealthy. I'm talking about how it feels to you, right? So like an unhealthy pattern that we might identify in ourselves is it's something that just kind of repeats itself and shows up over and over, and it doesn't make us feel good. So inside, when we're really honest with ourselves, somewhere we know this isn't right. I would really like to heal this. I would really like to change this. I feel like I'm trapped in this. I'm suffering because of this. So to define like a pattern for anybody listening, I don't I don't necessarily know if there's like a rule of thumb of like what a pattern is, but for you, it would be that thing that shows up over and over and over that you're super tired of. It's creating suffering for you, and you really would like to release it. So, other examples of that, um, using the love life, for example, attracting the same type of partner over and over. And for me, that was a partner who was kind of emotionally unavailable and never wanted to be in a committed relationship. So I was finding myself in that same type of relationship over and over and over and over again. Other examples of patterns are things that get passed down to us from our families. So, like a pattern that my mom passed down to me, love her, right? And I want to speak about her with love as I'm going public with the patterns I adopted. Overgiving, and overgiving to the point of like a self-sacrifice. Like there's no sense of self, there's no sense of self-care. Always putting others' needs before my own. That was a behavior I learned from my mother, and therefore, I mean, I never really even saw, I didn't even notice like what was happening until a certain point in my life. But noticing that if I'm in a situation and somebody that I care about is in need, I completely drop everything and go all in to try to help them, try to fix them, try to save them, to the point that it causes an extreme, it has extreme effects in my own life, to where I'm not fully taking care of myself. So that's the pattern. And then the way of like resolving these patterns, like first you have to kind of become aware of what's going on, become aware of what you're doing, recognizing that it's something that kind of shows up over and over. And then comes the willingness to release it. There's a lot of different ways that you can get support in releasing these patterns. There's so many amazing and talented healers and helpers out there, and all of their methods work. So there isn't really necessarily like a go-to method when it comes to releasing these patterns, because there's so many out there. But I would say the biggest thing when it comes to releasing it is to first start with willingness. That willingness to release it is the biggest key to releasing it. And once you reach that place of willingness, all of the details and the next steps fall into place. And then, kind of what you were speaking to, comes now I need to train myself differently. So I've done this a certain way my whole life, and I'm clear that I don't want to do it that way. I'm willing to release the pattern. Now, what the heck is the new way? And that's the stuff we're not really taught in our society. Our society doesn't teach us how to love fully, truly, unconditionally. We do a lot of crazy things in the name of love, and they're really not loving at all. So learning the new way is a complete venture of unknown. Knowing how to interact in a relationship where I'm not dropping everything to save somebody. How do I interact how do I help somebody but make sure that I'm taken care of too? Where's that fine line? So it's like learning the new way of doing things. And just like you said, like learning how to voice your needs, and then knowing what to do if that person's not willing to meet your needs. Like it's a whole new, we got to learn all new habits. We have to rewire our brain in all new ways.
And isn't that like, and that takes time and healing, and like you're seeing a lot of different types of support, right? Like it could be a mixture of support. It could be a specific modality, or it could be talk therapy with for some people with a modality, or there it could be cards, some type of energy work, or um, even something that's they have yoga in their life, meditation, acupuncture, um, a naturopathic way of healing different elements in their body, combined with like Reiki, or, um, you know, theta healing, or, I use sacred soul alignments for these patterns for myself, mindset work. It could be reading. I remember you prompted where I was thinking of what was one of the first books I read about this whole new way, this willingness to release, and it was Ivana. And she talked about that book in the meantime. Did you ever
Oh, yes.
read that book?
Yes. Ianla Van Zant is who you're
Yes,
talking about. She was one of
yes,
my first authors too.
yes. Right? Like her work, how she broke it down, about cleaning the rooms of the house was such a wonderful visual. So I know the book's still in print. Highly recommend it, but it really is talking about this whole awareness. And what you touched on is the things that we do in that book. My biggest takeaway is what we do in the name of love, this self sacrifice, almost being a martyr. I think, and I love my mother dearly, like thank God she's still with me. And she also has passed this down, this self-sacrifice at a level. And I think it's part of our collective culture of where they not only picked it up from their mothers, but the culture of how the feminine essence has shown up and the expectations. And as we continue to grow in this current day, that women even try to keep each other in this. So we're working and creating a habit after we've gone through the awareness, this willingness to receive, figuring out what this new way and what those habits are and why we need the support. Because you and I could say, oh, it's kind of, you're touching on one of my boundaries because we've built this foundation of love and respect. And we both have said, okay, I know that you struggle with self-sacrifice. I struggle with self-sacrifice. So we can acknowledge it to each other, going, this is feeling a little like I'm just struggling to even bring it up, right? The boundary of something. But we're able to have that conversation because we're just a couple steps ahead of maybe somebody or in the same area where somebody else is right now. And yet you have other relationships that are like they just don't understand or they don't, oh, you're being selfish, or why would you do that? Why would you go do something that seems so simple? Why can't you go do something that seems so simple? And how we kind of, even as women, kind of what's the word? We push each other too. We don't even realize that we're not only taking that healing opportunity away from that individual, but as a society, the feminine, of trying to realize that you are important and taking care of yourself is so much more important so that you can continue to give to everybody and not be burned out and have all these medical outcomes that are showing up pretty dramatically in our society with women.
Right. Wow, you touched on so many things. And there's so many things kind of like just bubbling up. Let's continue with that example of I care about somebody so much, therefore I put my own needs aside as if they're non-existent to support somebody else. There's certain elements of that. At a certain point, your actions aren't really that helpful. If you're trying to support somebody on an empty tank, or if you're trying to support somebody from this place of fear that's saying something is so wrong with where you're at, I need to jump in and fix it for you. Or yeah, there's just so many things that can get tied into that situation, which bring a lot of fear into the situation itself, which ends up not being really fully supportive to everybody. Okay, my personal example, I've been doing healing work for a long time for others, so facilitating healing sessions for others. And I used to have a really hard time saying, I was just always saying yes, like booking schedule sessions to where I was overbooked. I was also scheduling sessions with people who weren't as committed to their own healing growth that I was. Like I felt like I was a little bit more invested in their healing outcomes than they were themselves. And sure, there's probably a part of myself that was coming from fear, like attached to the outcome for them. And it was leaving me in a place where I was feeling overworked and drained. And that is not the best place to be helping people from. Like, I'm much more at my best when I'm coming into the session fully taken care of. Like, I ate well that day, I rested well, I took the time in the morning to do the things in my home that I needed to do. Like, those are all the things that I would sacrifice to really just be available to support somebody. And so when I do those things, I'm much more able to be of support to somebody else. It's that whole, like, you got to put your oxygen mask on first before you can help somebody else. Otherwise, you think you're helping, but there's so much stuff tied into it that the helpful results aren't going to be nearly as effective. And the fact of the matter is, when you start putting your needs first, you'll have some people in your life that understand and totally respect that. And you're going to have some people in your life that get pissed off about it. And that just comes with the territory. It's like, if you're really serious about changing the habit and the pattern for yourself, you have to be committed to it and willing to do an uncomfortable dance with people and situations in your life so that ultimately you're staying strong enough to remain committed to that which you're seeking.
Yes. Yes, I had a couple thoughts come to me. One of them is a resource for people who are learning to navigate through those, and that's the book Crucial Conversations. Highly recommend it. It can be used in a work environment or a home environment, but it really gives you some different ways of learning how to have those conversations. I've taken this workshop 3 times, and every time I take it, I'm like, oh, I didn't even, like, you pick up what you need. But what was really interesting about what you touched on too was that another simple example that as we continue down this kind of, because it's around boundaries, right? Being able to voice and speak, and how do we still stand in this? It's brand new. You feel like you're like this little bush, little mini tree. The roots aren't planted yet, and yet, the wind can easily come through and just rip it up, right? And then you have to replant yourself. And one of the common ways I've seen this, and I don't know if it's been something that is impacted you, but I've seen it. So I'm going to bring it up, not with you necessarily, but when we can't do something, or either we don't want to do it, or we're trying to learn boundaries, or maybe we don't want to do anything, right? And the program that we met, I think is the first time I really had somebody bring it to my attention, was that if you get invited out, for instance, and maybe it's on a Friday night, and you're like, I'm actually kind of tired. I don't have plans. Maybe you have plans the next day, or maybe you don't. Maybe you just want to simply stay home and be. Is that ability to say no, thank you. Not explaining that you're tired, not you don't that we don't have to give an explanation in respectful, healthy relationships just by simply saying I'm not available. That's it. We don't owe anybody an explanation. Have you seen that with yourself or with your clients? Or it's a pattern I've had to break, because I was always wanting to give them a 5-minute explanation of why I can't go do something. And it's like in the end, as I started to learn that balance, I found the less actually was actually healthier for me, because then you start getting into that dialogue of, well, we don't have to stay that long, or I can help you if it's a cash flow issue or a time issue, or I can come pick you up, or you start getting into this other dialogue, and that becomes even more challenging as you're learning to break and build new habits of taking care of yourself. Have you seen this as well with um, who you've worked with, or even within yourself of
Oh, absolutely. You know, yes, that example, and I could probably come up with a million other examples, but to really like hone in on the core of the issue and like what I want to say around it is, again, we're not taught in our society to honor ourselves, to take care of ourselves, to be in touch with our own needs, to be in touch with our desires. We find ourselves living according to these unrealistic expectations that the world puts on us or that other people put on us. And they lead to us trying to accommodate those expectations. It's kind of like a lose-lose situation. They never really lead to fulfillment, true peace, true happiness. So in an example like that, where somebody reaches out and asks, you want to go out? And I'm like, I know, I really don't. Yet I feel obligated to say yes, or I'm afraid to say yes, or I feel like I need to say no, but then give like a whole 30 minutes of why I'm saying no. So I need to justify my answer. Like, I feel a little angry that that's the way we're, the things that are passed down for people, for us, for those, there's a reason why this topic is coming up right now. So I'm imagining that this topic is very beneficial to somebody listening. And the real thing that I want to say is like, oh, hell no. like, sister, you are so important. You are so important. Your needs are so important. You have this desire to live a life that is full of fulfillment and full of meaning. And the universe wants you to flourish. The universe wants you to be happy. And the way that we get to a space of living our lives in alignment with the universe and living in alignment with these potentials of abundance and flourishment and meaning, like the biggest key, and if there's one huge thing that I could give that you would take as your takeaway, is like your needs are so important and they need to be honored. Your inner wisdom has all of the answers it needs, and it will guide you moment by moment into the best thing to do to take care of yourself, the best way to handle any situation, and the best way to receive the healing you're looking for, and the guidance that you need to create the life that you're really trying to seek. Your inner guidance tells you everything you need. So when you get that sensation, whether it's mild or strong, I've learned to listen to it regardless. And I've learned to listen to it regardless, unfortunately, the hard way, because every time you go against your inner knowing, you end up in a situation where you wish you listened to it. So that inner knowing is always guiding you. And it is so important to listen to it no matter what it's saying. Yes, it's going to be uncomfortable sometimes to honor that inner knowing and tell somebody no. You don't need to justify yourself to anybody. When it comes to explaining to somebody why you're saying no, what I would say for you in that situation is, how safe do you feel with that person? Do you really feel like you can open your heart and be honest and safe in really expressing what your reasons are to saying no? If you feel safe and like that person would hold a safe space for you as you express that, then yes, explain why. But if you know that person and you know that person's not really going to get it and they might criticize you for it, don't explain why, because it hurts. Their response is going to hurt. It's going to put you in a situation where you're like having to like fight for yourself, like just simply no thank you, or I'm not available right now, or I actually have other plans, or you know what, on second thought, like I'm not really feeling going out tonight. I'm going to spend my evening in a different way. Can we take a rain check? Like there's so many ways that you can kind of say no without feeling obligated to go into 30 minutes of explanation. But a true friend that has your back, our true friends are down to walk through the muck with us. You know, our true friends, like, they'll listen to your 30-minute spiel and then at the end they go, girl, you don't need to explain.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I just love you. I know we've kind of gone down this whole path of um, talking about what a pattern is. And I think what was so beautiful about this, Erin, so thank you for going down there with me, because I think sometimes as spiritual beings, we're talking and we're explaining this healing, and it might be where it's so high level for people to understand at times, not purposefully, right? But then people are like, well, how does this actually help me? What does this look like? Because maybe they're new and they can feel something off, but they can't quite articulate it. And so thank you for helping us as we shared, going back and forth about what does it look like? How does it show up? And you starting this journey so young, the things that are so considered acceptable in our, especially in our youth, you know, who maybe don't even understand, or maybe there's nobody there to even help and guide them about what this could actually look like. Or is that a pattern because this is what they've grown up with? Nothing with the parents, right? Like nothing, not saying anything bad about all their parents. They did the best they could at that time, but they may not be realizing that they are also passing down some of their beliefs. And as women, I think culturally we pass things down, not purposefully, but that's just what we do, right? And so thank you for going on that path. I wanted to circle back around too, because we started your journey when you were young, and we got you to um, your early 20s and this whole path of before we've met. But I know that there's been other parts of that journey. Was there? I didn't want to make sure that I wanted to ensure that I did not um, have you. There was other parts that you would like to share as our conversation naturally went towards what patterns were and the awareness and stuff. So was there anything else that you would like to share there?
Sure. Um, just thinking where to start with that. Okay. So if there's like one huge thing that I've learned, it's that we are souls in these bodies. This is not our first rodeo. This is not our first incarnation. We've experienced life in other bodies at other times in other ways. So some of these patterns we might struggle with might even stretch far back into other lifetimes. And the hardest moments, the hardest relationships, in my experience, have been with people in which when I'm wanting to go deeper into healing around the situation or the relationship, there's almost always some sort of past life connection, some sort of past life issue, some sort of past life healing. And I had many of those relationships or experiences. And I'm always, I want to be clear, I'm always coming from that place of what does my soul really want, right? Like what's really going on a soul level. And that's one of the reasons why traditional therapy never worked for me, is because it just was so superficial. I'm like a deep person. I'm like seeing past lives. I'm getting visions. I'm awakening in spiritual ways. And so I've always searched like what's really going on. What's really in the depth of this. And so I had my partner before my current partner. He was I was sure he was my person. I was so head over heels in love. We like kind of knew each other since childhood. We had such a strong chemistry and spiritual connection. And ultimately, it didn't work out. He kind of approached the relationship with like a I want you, no I don't. I want you, no I don't. I want you, no I don't. And ouch, it hurt so bad. And the pain was that kind of spiritual depth I'm talking about. Like it wasn't a superficial, like, oh, this guy's not into me. Like it felt almost like the trauma that I experienced from the sexual assault, like being wounded to the core, and my core just like completely shattered. My sense of identity was gone. It was such a deep experience. Many spiritual healers refer to something called the dark night of the soul. And basically what that is that I heard Reverend Michael Beckwith define it as it's that in-between space when who you once were no longer is, and who you will be isn't quite yet. So you're in this place of the in-between. Who you were is gone. You have no idea what's coming. There's a little bit of an identity crisis that takes place during that time. Who am I? Why am I here? I feel so hopeless. I feel so lost. My entire world just fell apart. And mind you, when this person and I ended our relationship, not only was I devastated then, but I was also forced to move at the same time, was going through major changes in my business, like everything was changing. So I was in this very it was kind of like, what the heck, universe? Like, I have done everything you've asked, and here I am with nothing. And I felt like my dreams just got like ripped away from me. And it was devastating. Yet, two things happened. Right at that same time, I went to Ireland. And I went to Ireland to study under Louise Hay's work. Louise wasn't the one teaching, she had already passed away at that time. But I studied from a woman named Eileen in the Heal Your Life teacher training. Now, if you're not familiar with Louise Hay, she was such a pioneer in this whole self-help world. And she is the founder of Hay House Publishing, which is a major publishing company of like many, many, many spiritual and self-help books. Many of the teachers that we've talked about already today are published under Hay House. Like Louise was a pioneer, and she was really big into affirmations. And anyways, I went to Ireland to get trained in her work, to facilitate her workshops. And a big theme of her work is all is well. All is well. All is well right now. Using affirmations to affirm for oneself, I am perfect, whole, and complete. So shifting out of that place of pain and into that place of peace, security, feeling safe. And I had a moment in that class receiving with forgiveness. And I thought I knew what forgiveness was. Conceptually, I did. I was able to let go of a lot of things in my life. So like, I thought I knew what forgiveness was. We were doing this forgiveness exercise. And it started simple, like, I forgive blank. And we're working with partners, so you're having to like fill in the blanks. And all of a sudden, like it's my turn, so I'm saying, I forgive, I forgive, I forgive. And I just start sobbing, and I could feel like how I was trying to hold on to what I was resisting to forgive. And I'm sobbing, and I'm saying it anyway, right? And it was like, I'm not even kidding. It was like there was these big, huge windows right on the ocean in Ireland. And like the sun came out so big, like streaming in. And I'm like, snot all over, like, I forgive so and so. I forgive so and so for this. I forgive myself. And it was the I forgive myself part. I forgive myself. And the sun just like came out and like it felt like it streamed down and just took all of that pain. And I literally felt like a newborn baby. And my partner was hugging me, and I'm just like in my partner's arms. I'm the class partner, the partner in my class, and she's holding me in her arms, and I just felt like this newborn baby. And it was like God was like there, just like gracing me with this new healing and new miracles. A Course in Miracles talks about the miracle is love, and the way to get to the miracle is through forgiveness. And in comparison, there's no big or small. Like, there's no comparison. A miracle is a miracle, whether it's a small forgiveness or a big forgiveness. But that moment was extremely life-changing. And I went from almost having a constant state of anxiety what seems like my entire life, although I never even realized it, to this place of true inner peace and faith and feeling safe inside my own being. It taught me what faith really is. My faith never wavers anymore. I trust the universe. I trust the higher power. I trust my guardian angels no matter what. Whatever fires they ask me to walk through, or whatever hard life events, deaths seem to be the hardest, my faith no longer wavers, ever.
I'm just visualizing that moment. I can see this moment of the sun coming in, you know, the confirmation, affirmation um, of the angels, the archangels all coming down with the sun, you know, all the earth elements coming through the window as you look over the ocean, right? All the north, south, east, and west parts of the earth. And it all just really rejoicing with you letting go and the forgiveness of yourself in that moment.
Absolutely.
And that environment that allowed that to all accumulate into that milestone, life-changing moment.
Yes. And there was something very important about being in Ireland for that. My mother's family are immigrants from Ireland. So as I was there doing my healing work in this training and in this class, I knew I was helping to break the patterns and cycles that have been passed down from my mother's lineage. I knew it. So that was super powerful. Healing for myself, healing her, healing the people that came before her, really like getting deep and releasing a lot of things that were passed down. And on the same note, I was talking about the intensity of that relationship that had just ended. And there were absolutely past lifetimes that we experienced together. And which I think is one of the reasons why it was such a in your face, rattle you to the core, like identity crisis type of experience. But I also know that we have had past lifetimes together in Ireland. So I traveled thousands of miles. Took a lot of freaking courage, huge leap of faith, but I just knew I had to go. I mean, I didn't know I was going to heal the family's lineage or really heal some of the past stuff and past lifetimes with this person. I had no idea about any of that until it was happening. I just knew I had to be at this training, and it's in Ireland and it's 2,000 miles away and it's in April. So like, go, whatever it takes, like, whew. And that took a lot of courage to get myself on the plane and to get there. And I had no idea what was waiting for me. But it was that gift, that huge, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful gift that cleared up so many unseen things, including whatever I was holding against myself. That in releasing of it through complete divine intervention is what it felt like, was just such a miracle and changed everything. That was the beginning of me finally feeling like I actually have become the woman that I've always been striving to be.
That's a powerful statement. Again, owning that, striving, you becoming the woman you always wanted to be.
On the inside, right? Like there's all these, there's all the, when I think of the woman I've always wanted to be, there's all these things on the outside, right? Like a thriving business, blah, blah, blah. Yes, that's here. Yes, that's happening. Yes, I want that. That's part of it. But it's the woman I've always wanted to be on the inside, the part of me that's at peace, the part of me that feels confident, the part of me that isn't a hot mess with a little blip in something. Like today I feel whole. And before
Oh,
I always felt like there was something missing.
wow. I feel whole. How many listening can say that? I feel whole in the journey. And you touched on it earlier, but the commitment to yourself, where you can see the difference when you were working with others, where your commitment to their healing was greater than their own commitment. And you took that oxygen on your for yourself, and you made that same high level commitment to walk through the gunk, to walk through the snotty moments, get down and get to the heart of what it was. And for you, it was forgiveness. And I think it's just simply remarkable. And I want to acknowledge that path because you were brave, you were courageous, you were already whole and complete. And it was now where you could own that you were whole and complete. And almost like a little funny thing that I just got the visual of is, remember the Wizard of Oz when she comes back and you were already there. When she clicked her feet, you were already home. You were already home. It was always there within your reach.
Mm.
Already there within your reach. You just had to commit to a whole other level. Your sharing of this dark soul description, the Reverend Beck's description, and I know that we hear a lot. I've had a lot of people on who talk about, I've been through this dark soul of the night, and until somebody's been through it, they may not even understand, or grasp what is that description. And so thank you for sharing that, because I think it's really going to help a lot of listeners understand what it looks like when things fall apart, and how you're able to even support somebody as you can see what's happening, this opportunity of this stuff falling apart. It's the love relationship that you thought was that at this super deep level that you can't even put into words and express, the move, the business stuff, how everything just was all almost colliding all at once. And maybe it's presumptuous to assume, but last year, I believe there was a lot of dark souls of the night for a lot of women, a lot of people, men and women.
Whew. Yeah, absolutely. When the pandemic hit, honestly, my response was, oh, I got this. I've been through my own pandemic. Like, I know I got this. Like, I am secure in the unknown. I know that everything's happening for a reason. I know that I can have faith in the dismantling of all that we know. I know that things have to fall apart in order to come together. Like, I know I'm good. And this is my time to support others, because absolutely we're experiencing it on a collective. I believe that we are going through an evolutionary milestone as a collective human race. And this is the time for growth. And in that growth, it's exactly like explaining this process. The old needs to be released so that the new can enter. And there's this very uncomfortable in between space of the old no longer is and the new isn't quite yet. So, like we're freaking out. We have no idea what to do. Like, it's scary and it can be dark. It's extremely uncomfortable. And I think everybody experiences their own versions of that. And, um, I hope it's not as intense and extreme for everybody. We can experience like mild versions of that, and still have the same transformational results as long as it's divinely guided. I trust everybody's process, everybody's unique individual process. And I know that your individual unique process is trustworthy as it's divinely orchestrated. Whether or not we tune into the divine blessings that are available, that's kind of up to us. I'm getting a little lost in my thoughts, so I think I'll pause there.
Yeah. The So I wanted to continue with sharing about, you know, the beginning of the pandemic, the end of the pandemic. We're here, the new energies of 2021 rolled in July. Not just because our man-made calendar of January decided it was a new year, right? And people thought, oh, it's I'm going to pop champagne, swearing away 2020. Let's bring in the new year, and it got rougher actually before it got better. And as we start to step into this new space and allow, I think what you touched on was that this is a time for learning and growth. And so, in learning and growth, I would love for myself and the listeners to hear about how what does that look like when you're working with them? Because you've shared all of this wonderful goodness of how you support others. So, what does that look like for you in your work?
Um, what does what look like? Can you repeat the question?
Of supporting the people who are drawn to work with you for support. How, like, what type of work do you do?
Okay, great. Um, okay, so I do a lot of one-on-one work and I also do group work. So I'll explain kind of the difference, although mostly it's, the common themes are, well, right off the bat, and we didn't share this evening, which is kind of surprising because it's one of the first things I usually share. I work with angels. Angels are beautiful beings of love that help us connect with the divine source of love, right? Like in truth, like you said, we are all whole. We are whole, we are complete, we are one. In this vibration of love, all is well. There's a universal power that orchestrates our lives and so forth. This higher power, I like to call it the higher power. I like to call it divine love. Sometimes I call it God, universe, whatever terms work for you. There is a universal flow of love that guides and supports us. And it's always, always, always available to us. Angels are beings of love, and their job is to connect us to this source. I think when you look angel up in the dictionary, they're defined as messengers of God. So they're messengers that help us unite with this love. Um, in my teens, when I started awakening on my spiritual path, I began to remember that I've been seeing angels since I was a kid. Like I remember being very little and seeing angels and always feeling drawn to these bright lights and feeling safe when they were around and having mental conversations and out of body experiences. So my childhood was very, very tapped in. But through my trauma, I forgot all that and I reawoke to it um, in my teens. So just like I was talking about the fairy cards are fairies are nature's guardian angels. So they're beings of love that exist in nature, and they're kind of fun. Angels, yeah, fairies are a little more fun than angels, although angels can be funny. So um, that's kind of my thing. Like I'm just like tuned in to these beautiful, amazing beings that support us. And I've learned how to speak their language. And I teach people how to speak their language because we all have guardian angels around us. Every single person on this planet was assigned guardian angels at birth. And then we have spirit guides, who are usually beings who have been with us in past lifetimes, or they're connected in with our lineage. So they're more like connected to our soul, and our soul, they know the history of our soul. We've known our spirit guides before. My spirit guide is like a deity from ancient Ireland. So like everybody's unique spirit guide, the spirit guide knows where you've been and what you're supposed to be doing in this lifetime. Then there's archangels, who are like bigger angels, and they serve different roles and purposes, and they kind of come and go as we need. Then there's the whole realm of goddesses and ascended masters. And I love working with them too. So like beings like Kuan Yin, the Buddhist goddess of compassion, Mother Mary, I also am really close with. She comes from Catholicism. She was Jesus Christ's mother. Ascended Masters includes working with beings like Jesus and Buddha and so forth. My heart, like I mentioned earlier, that the healing pathway like was my lifeline. And for me, that healing pathway has totally 100% included asking the angels for help, asking for divine guidance, asking the universe to guide me. That like has been my lifeline. So it's funny that we didn't get to sharing that until now, but when you're asking me about the work that I do, I mean, that's the foundation for all of the work that I do. So when I'm working with people one-on-one, we're communicating with your guardian angels and the beings that are around you and relaying forth any messages that they have. Again, their messages are here to help you to align to that wholeness, that oneness. What that looks like specifically is, I mean, it's very customized to what you're going through. But okay, like I have one client, for example. She loves working with me because she feels like every time we get together, it's like having coffee with a long lost soul sister. And in that time together, she is reminded of who she is and what her potential is in this lifetime. Some of the major things that she's had success with in working together is been releasing this pattern and habit of wanting to control every situation and having extreme anxiety when things don't go according to plan or the way she thinks they should go or the way that they want to go. So the benefits she's received have been feeling a lot more grounded, been able to like really sync up with the universe's flow. She's been able to develop her own intuition and have her own relationships with her angels and her spirit guides. She's learned how to trust the process of life and surrender into whatever divine guidance the challenges have, instead of freaking out that they're not going the way she thought they should. Another client that I work with, she's the type that worries so much about everyone. So since working together, she's been able to release that stressful state of worry that she's been finding herself in for her whole life. And now is more trusting that everything and everyone is taken care of. I have a recent client. One of the things that she said, I think this one's my favorite. Since working with Erin and being introduced to the angels, it's like the biggest relief in my life that I don't have to worry anymore. Like worry about how things are going to work out. Like in our work together, she's been able to develop her own connection with the universe. And with that comes this trust that everything is falling into place and working out exactly as it should. And she said it's the biggest relief to just not have to worry anymore. So I do one-on-one work. That's a session over Zoom where we're communicating with your angels and really supporting you through whatever your process is, helping you to get to that place of really being able to tune into the universe, develop your intuition, become that radiant, confident version of yourself, and manifest the life you dream of. I think manifestation is one of my favorite things, because as we tap into our divine power as a human being and as the souls that we are, we're reclaiming ancient gifts from previous lifetimes. And part of those gifts include the ability to really cultivate this life of love and create that life that we know is meant for us. The life we know is meant for us, I'm talking about the life that's been playing in your head, the life you've always seen yourself living, the life you truly dream of, the life where you're making a big difference in the world, the life where you're happy, fulfilled, and yeah, that's what my work is all about. And the group program that I do is doing that in community, and there's more method to it. I actually developed a workbook that goes deeply into inner work, personal work, connecting with different archangels and ascended masters. You learn a lot about them individually. There's personalized ceremonies that work with connecting with them. And one of the beautiful things about the group program is, just like we started out talking about today, your soul sisters are out there. Your soul brothers and sisters are out there. Like, we always find each other. We always find each other. Your people are out there. We always find each other. And the great thing about group work is that it provides that opportunity for you to come together with your tribe, with your soul family. And the magic that's created in going through a program together is so powerful. Just like what Debbie and I experienced. We met through this program. The program changed our lives in so many amazing ways. We found each other. We have a lifelong relationship because of it. And yeah, that's just really one magical element.
And the gift of going through the journey with fellow people in a group program especially ones that are over extended periods of time, whether it's an intense 12-week program or year-long program or a retreat. I feel the need now to share that we are creating something together for people.
Yeah, Debbie and I is what she's
Oh
saying.
my goodness. I mean, it just kind of is naturally flowing. It's not meant to sound like an ad for anybody listening, but it just seems so, we've both have gone through transformations in our life through the program that we met with other programs as well. And so next May 2022, um, I have a retreat called Light Up Your Worth, and it's in May 2022, and it's at Lake Tahoe, which we both live near. Well, you live at Lake Tahoe. I live in Reno currently, and which is right down the road from Tahoe. And so we, uh, I have Erin joining me in this retreat. I have a few really hand selected people who I just adore and love. And our work is so supportive of how we show up and our beliefs and how we are empowering women to really own that worth, going through and doing the work. And so Erin is part of this retreat in May 2022. And I think when we publish this, I'll add some of that information in for people who would like to sign up, and we'll share more about it. But and I think we're both on the same premise that community work is so powerful. Having that sister, who hugged you when you were in Ireland,
Absolutely.
and going through with the same process, even though we might even be different stages of our journey, but somebody who can actually understand, oh, I just got goosebumps, that moment, and can hold each other in that particular moment of what comes through on you. Whether there's just something magical that happens in that, where they can hold that space. And I know that you hold that space for me frequently, that, and that we want to come together and hold that space for others. So I wanted to add that in as you
Yeah.
continue on with your, the work that you do. Please continue to share, but I wanted to make sure that people are aware that we find that community program so conducive to a really deep level of transformation that we're going to share that with others together. So
Yeah.
can't wait.
Absolutely. And the thing is we're not meant to do this alone. We're not meant to do this alone. We need each other. We need each other. We are one. This is about unity, not separation. This is about togetherness, not isolation. Like, we need each other. When whatever you're experiencing on your spiritual path or your own healing journey, like, you need support. We need support. We cannot do this alone. We are not meant to do this alone. So getting that support is vital. If you want to have success in what you're trying to achieve, if you really want to have breakthroughs in these healing areas, like, I really want to take this moment to gently yet powerfully encourage you, like, reach out, get support, sign up for a program, find somebody to work with. Like, it's one of the best things you could ever do for yourself. It's one of the best things I've done for myself. It's one of the best things Debbie's done for herself. Like invest in yourself. Invest in yourself, invest in your growth. You are not meant to do this alone. I promise you will look back and see it as one of the best things you've ever done for yourself. And, on the note of coming together in community, again, it's about soul family. It's about finding your people. It's about creating those relationships in your life where you can truly 100% be yourself, where you can truly 100% be yourself, whether you're a hot mess or at your best. You inspire and uplift each other. You support each other. You hold each other. I'm really wanting to speak to that now, because a lot of what my clients come to me with is they're struggling in their relationships. They're finding themselves feeling very drained in their relationships. Relationships that once resonated with them aren't really resonating with them anymore. My clients, a lot of the times, are having a hard time having boundaries in relationships, being their authentic self in their relationships. So when we're talking about coming together in community, whether it's our retreat in May or any other type of group program that we offer, or any other group program just that you're drawn to in general, like, do it. You deserve to have fulfilling, uplifting relationships in your life. You deserve to feel fully at home with the people you're around. And this is a great way to do it. Again, you're not meant to be on this journey alone. And yeah, it's just something you'll be really happy you did.
Yeah. And what's the expression? You are the top 5 people that you spend the most time with. And what if you took a look at who do I spend my time with? And you realize maybe one or two don't necessarily fit into this new way, this new habits, but you're in that place where you haven't quite connected with them. Wow, you meet them in programs. You meet them in programs. I firmly believe whether it's somebody who works with you, Erin, or works with me, or works with any of the people that I've spoken with on this podcast, right? Somebody's going to resonate with you. And taking that leap of faith, whether it means you don't go out to eat or you don't get Starbucks, because you're going to now take that money and actually attune it and focus the intention on where it's going to actually help you on a different basis, right? And figuring it out. And it always figures itself out. Once you put that intention out there, the universe does help you when you're committed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It'll meet you. It's a co-creative thing. Like the universe will bend over backwards to support you in so many ways, because that's what the universe does. It loves you. But we have to meet the universe. We have to make actual tangible action steps in our lives that shows the universe, I want what I say I want. I'm committed to being on this journey. I'm committed to my process. I'm committed to this. And the universe can meet us all that much more. It's very, very important. And like I kind of want to keep that vibe going of like, really, this is where the rubber meets the road. Like how much longer can you afford not to do this? Going back to like the ideas of suffering, like what are you suffering from? What patterns are you drowning in? Like really, like how much longer are you going to allow yourself to be there? Has what you've done in the past to try to resolve it worked? If it hasn't, you need to try something different. I mean, man, I'm getting like a little hyped up right here, because sisters, brother, like now is the time. Like we can't afford to be trapped in our suffering anymore. Like it is just, that is a thing of the past. I think collectively with the pandemic, like we're all as a collective race, like shifting out of these old ways. Like there isn't really many other options anymore. Like we can try to keep doing things the way we've been doing them, but like we're just gonna hit roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. Like now is the time to do something different. And the opportunities for you to learn how to do something different will present themselves. Your job is to say yes. Your job is to muster up that courage. Your job is to muster up that commitment. Your job is to say, yes, universe, I'm down and willing to do whatever it takes. And that's what I want for you. Because not only does the quality of your life depend on it, but like we said earlier, when you do the healing work for yourself, the entire planet benefits. When you commit to your process and dedicate it outward to the benefit of all, we all benefit.
Right, tears. You connect me with why I started the podcast, of knowing that there were these beautiful souls who, whether they stumble upon the podcast and they feel drawn to a spiritual perspective, a different, trying something different, and learning what that is in all the different ways we've talked about. There's so many different healing modalities. Maybe they feel drawn connecting with the angels. Maybe they feel drawn with a life coach who works with their affirmations, right? Maybe they feel drawn to a specific healing modality. Maybe they try different things. Maybe one takes them to a certain part of it, almost like a baton, and now something else takes it. And how we're all here, and this vibration of changing, this vibration of the earth, which so needs us. We all need it. The more you've healed, the more our relationship has grown. Right? The more I heal, the more it has helped you. The more it has helped my family, my son, my pets, my friendships, my work environments. Like, it just exponentially brings more light. And there is so much trauma. People carry so much trauma within themselves from this life, ancestral, generational trauma that you've experienced, I've experienced to work on as well. I have, people can see me, I'm very Irish looking, very Irish Scottish background. So, Ireland is on my list as well. And so I too, Erin, want people to realize, whether it's you or me or any of the numerous people that I've had on, right? Like, whoever you feel drawn to. You heard the expression of, sometimes people don't even understand where their values are. I don't understand. You've worked with people or have known people who don't really clearly understand, well, does that come against your belief or your values? And they're like, well, I actually don't even understand that, right? Like, it seems such a huge mountain. And, the easiest way to go do it is how we're talking about it actually is go look at where you're spending your money. Have you invested in anything with yourself? Have you made that commitment? And when we talk about commitment, that includes your resources, your time, and your resources, being able to however that looks like, whether it's a book or a workshop, a podcast, a coaching program, a workshop, a retreat, whatever it is, it shows up. And when we make that commitment with our resources, it brings us change and transformation in ways we would have never even could visualize.
I love how you're like using the money as an example, because we work hard for our money. Like, we work hard for our money. Our money, that we work hard for our money, and money is energy. So to take that energy and the energy that we've earned and worked hard for, and to put it in a direction that's meaningful to us, the results that we're going to get out of that direction are going to be so much more magnified. I mean, I think that's going to be the same case if you're putting that energy and money towards something that you're a little wishy-washy about, right? Like, you're talking about doing a little inventory and like assessing, like, okay, where is my money going? Well, I'm finding that I'm spending it a lot of time, spending a lot of money here and there. And then you're asking yourself, like, okay, like, what am I receiving in exchange for directing my money and my energy there? And you're talking about checking in with your value system. Like, what do I value? What do I want? What do I really want to get out of life? So how can I shift where I'm directing my money and that energy into putting it into something that's very meaningful to me and that's going to really allow that money to grow or turn into a lot of rewards. You know, in business, we talk about ROI, return on investment. And so, like, what is your return on the investment? How much return on investment are you getting with your Starbucks cup? You know, when you put that money that you work hard for and all that energy, and it's just putting attention, intention, investment into something that is going to help you flourish. And that return on investment is spectacular. And man, to those listening, like, I'm getting so pumped because it's so important. Like, if you're cool with a mediocre life, fine, you know, like, that's all good. Like, I have no attachment to what type of life works for you. But if you're like me, who's like, man, when I get to the end of my life and I look back, like, what do you want to look back on? For me, a half-assed job in my life, like, just isn't gonna work. Like, when I at the end of my life, when I look back, I want to know that I gave this life my all. I want to know that I really went for my dreams. I want to know that I really learned what real love is like. I want to look back and see that I had miraculous healing in my relationships. I want to look back and see that I overcome the things that could have knocked me down. You know, the thing is that these patterns that we talked about earlier, a lot of people don't overcome them. A lot of people spend their whole lives trapped in them over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And Buddhism talks about those cycles extending far beyond this lifetime. So not only are you trapped in them over and over in this lifetime, but sweetheart, if you don't resolve it in this lifetime, like, it's showing up next lifetime. I'm out. I'm done. Like, not doing it. I'm not doing it that way. And so I'm getting super pumped up talking to you about it because, like, I believe in you. And if there's any part of you that wants the same, like, this is your sign from the universe to take serious, ruthless, committed, invested action. And the right teacher will appear. Go with who you're drawn with when it comes to, like, finding a mentor or who you're going to work with. Some tips that I have for you would include, you know, find somebody who you feel really drawn to. Find somebody who makes you feel safe and accepted. Find somebody who, like, you could literally tell them anything and you don't feel like they're going to judge you. Find somebody who walks their talk. Somebody who, like, is in integrity with their own work. Like, you can hear what they're saying and look at them and the things about their life, and all the pieces match up. Don't work with somebody where the pieces don't quite line up, or you know, you want to make sure the person you choose to work with, like, has integrity and is walking their talk, because those people can truly help you get to where you're wanting to go.
Yeah. And they walk through their own stuff.
Mhm.
They walk through, it's not all shiny every day. They use what they've learned and they're applying it to themselves, their lives, as they come across their own real life challenges. And how do they walk through it? Do they walk through it with grace? You know, do they can still have those snotty days, as we you know, and yet they know to feel it and walk through it, and they have their support as well, right? Who they can reach out to. They're constantly, I love those tips, Erin. I love those tips. I would add one more, is that that person is also continually learning and growing and is
Yes.
reaching for their own next mentor, their next um, a moment of evolution. And who is their coach? Who is their mentor? They don't have one? What do you mean? I pause, right? Like, I want to know that my mentors are continually evolving and you can feel it as you continue to do your work with them,
Yeah.
with whoever you go down that path with. It's, or you might reach a path with somebody you're like, that was beautiful. And now I feel like I need to now move with this flow. Because I think we've all done that too, right? Where you get to a path with somebody that you love, and then you're like, it's feeling like I need now to shift there because I've done that as well. And they all continue to do their work, and they do the same type of similar evolution with themselves to continue their own growth. Oh, I love this conversation. I just love all of how you're fired up as well, right? Because I am so fired up. When I see somebody in this cycle of pain, and you just want to shake them and go, honey, it doesn't have to be so painful.
Right.
As you navigate through life.
Right. Yeah. One important thing though, and this kind of, like I said earlier, that one of my patterns I've reconditioned is kind of like being overly attached to my clients' outcomes, wanting to save people, right? I totally get what you're saying, and just kind of chiming into like voice, like, yeah, I have a little bit of a different take on that, because that's like one pattern that I've totally like let go of. And where I've gotten to as a result is fully trusting everybody's process, trusting that everybody is on their own evolutionary path, and it's not up to me to say it's right or wrong. Like, especially when looking at it from this lifetime karma, breaking through the cycles, reaching enlightenment, just like those are the lenses that I look through. And so I know that in every moment, every single soul has an opportunity to grow. I know that if they choose to grow, they're going to grow. And I know that if they choose not to grow, they're going to stay stuck. Now, I've learned how to be at peace with that, to trust that everybody's at where they're at, and that they are where their soul needs to be at that time. And that when they reach the point that they're ready to grow, like, they have to invest in themselves, and they have to ultimately, they're the ones that get themselves to that new level of growth. I have loved ones in my life that have been stuck in addiction, crazy addiction, right? And I think those are the hardest. Those situations are pretty hard to let go of attachment, because you're seeing somebody you love struggling in their addiction, and it looks like on the outside that they're completely like throwing their lives away. And it's really hard to be at peace when you're witnessing somebody you love perpetuate some of those cycles. Yet I really do. I mean, Ireland changed my life, and there was a lot more to Ireland that I didn't share. But everybody has the same opportunity we do. And at the end of, like I said, like at the end of my life, I want to look back and say, I did great. And I really became free from some of these cycles. And not everybody is on that path. And that's okay. So yes, I do want everybody to grow, and I want to see everybody flourishing, and I want to see everybody making it, and I want to see everybody moving past these cycles. Yet there's something about each soul's purpose and the specific lessons they are meant to live that I've just learned to trust. So when it comes to being the helper, instead of being the person that was a lot more committed to their growth than they were, right? I'm saying, hey, sister, hey, brother, like, this is what's available to you. I can help you in these ways. If you want my help, here's what's required. And it's balanced, and it's a very powerful co-creative relationship towards, I want to work with people who are serious about getting getting the return on investment out of our work together. Like, I know I can take people to new heights, and not everybody's there, and that's okay.
Yeah, I think I'm still in that process, honestly, Erin. A few weeks ago, I went back to my hometown. I went back and I spent time uh, in a life that I used to live, that I lived for quite a while, right? To my early 30s. I'm 55, mid 50s, right? And had an opportunity to spend some really deeply immersed time for days. And there was somebody who came to an event. We were actually there for a funeral, and somebody who I had seen, a cousin that had impacted my life, showed up. And I didn't expect to see this person. And oh my gosh, he was such a wonderful person. He's not the one who's deceased, but got to see him, and we were, talking about a few things that had happened, um, and I was making some comments about when we were at his wedding and how we danced and had a good time, and his then wife, I think, was actually a little jealous, right? Because we had this closeness. Because we used to just sit and talk as I waited for my spouse to come home, right? Like, um, and so we just had this really unique type of friendship. To see him again and to realize that, wow, I hardly recognize how I used to respond and own, like what you're talking about, owning somebody else's growth, owning somebody else's development, owning somebody else's ability. And then I had to realize, like what you're saying, that's his path. That is not mine. I had let go. I had moved on 20 years ago. And I had almost like this opportunity to say and to hold him in the sacred space of, wow, I'm so grateful for those years, what you taught me, what I learned about myself, and that commitment that I had made to myself, how it is now to where I am
Mm.
today.
Yeah.
And it came about not so much from my conversation with my previous partner, but with his cousin, and what he gave me to remember about, he still sees that person, but what he sees is how much I cared, the kindness I gave him. And in a time where I think he was actually in a dark soul time, and I didn't know that then. I didn't know those words, and I don't think he does. I don't know if he would now, but to have connected with him and to have that moment of reflection of, wow, that's their path, this is my path, and all those, what was new ways and new habits, is so far gone. And now being in this new space, and how challenging events that have happened in the last few months, how I'm able to navigate them through, was so different than before then. But to not own their processes of what you're talking about, their outcomes, what I see is possible for them. And it takes our own commitments to be able to do that. And so
Mhm.
um,
Right.
so powerful,
Yeah, I think touching on like seeing the potential in someone, I think that's, important to elaborate on a little bit more, because I know I've experienced that a lot in my life, and I'm sure a lot of the people listening like can relate to that. Like, whether any type of relationship, seeing somebody's potential and feeling very sad that they're not reaching their potential, and really wanting to help them to reach their potential, to the point where, like I've experienced, and maybe you can relate, to the point of sacrificing my own stuff to help them reach their potential. Like the devastating relationship that I talked about, like, I learned that I wasn't wrong in what I felt about the relationship. Of course, I like believed he was my guy and put everything into it. And it wasn't necessarily that I was wrong. I was seeing a potential that I was all in for and they weren't. Seeing the potential in somebody, and going back to like the drug addict situation or the addiction situation, right? Like I want that person to release their addiction so that they can reach the potential I see as possible for them. There's a sense of grief that needs to be felt when we're basically accepting and surrendering the fact that there's nothing I can do to help that person reach their potential. I see their potential. I want them to reach their potential, but I can't be more invested in their potential than they are. And I can no longer sacrifice myself to try and help them reach their potential, which they may or may not ever reach. For me, what that looked like in the relationship is, I saw the potential in my previous partner. I saw the potential for us to be happy together. So I kind of like dismissed all the ways he was treating me like crap in the name of this potential that I invested so much in trying to get us to and trying to get him to. Like, whew. I know it's hard. I know there's a lot of grief involved, but like them reaching their potential is between them and God. It's between them and their higher power. There are their own cycles of suffering, their own soul lessons that they are responsible for learning. And ultimately, it's up to them whether they learn them or not, or grow or not. And we can only do the same for ourselves.
Hallelujah. I did the same thing. And also had a sister who had an addiction, and she never did overcome that. She's no longer here with us. And before it got to that point, I had to almost pre-grieve that she may never reach how amazing she was and leave her impact, unfortunately. That's what, why she's gone, is that her addiction did win over. And so over, her life experience here. And so there is a grieving process and disconnecting from that potential, whether it's a sibling, a partner that you have all of that hopes and dreams, and you oversee, you almost blindly accept. We normalize behaviors that are not acceptable. Not acceptable. Not just for you or being this whole high and mighty, but some basic ways of how we treat each other in love. Even on our bad days, even on those worst moments, can be their worst day of their life, and how they respond to us. And being able to recognize that, I know in our work and our friendship together that it's huge to be able to support somebody on their journey and know and not be so attached to that outcome. I know it's a continual lesson for me as I navigate through that too. And, you as my witness and everybody here is a witness to know that, it is a journey, and we do get these opportunities to continually evolve and have the support. So um, I think I got a little lost in that, thinking about my sister, and her, and the healing that has had to occur of watching
Right.
self-destruction, and knowing. So I guess I offered that as a hope too, right? For those that there is a way in love to not be attached to their outcomes, and that again, putting the oxygen on, right? If you had continually not paused and took a look at the potential and how not only has that helped you in your own life and your own growth, but how you are able to hold that support for those who are reaching out for you for what you do in supporting others. I mean, it's one of the tougher patterns to break.
Mhm.
Really is, I think, because we, especially as women, we're used to being this almost self-sacrificing, right, continually. And so, I'm not that I'm thankful that you had to occur that level of pain to get it, but you got it and you did the work. And now you are here saying, hey, this light's here.
Mhm.
If you're looking for a light and you know that you don't know what this new way looks like, or the habits, or who do I do that to, that you're able to now help people walk through that. So super, super
Yes.
powerful. But
Oh, yeah, thank you. A couple things I want to say just quickly. One, I'm sorry for your loss and what happened with your sister. Just to take that note a little bit further, God always has a plan. There's always a plan. The higher power always has a plan. At the end of the day, when we leave this lifetime, all the struggles that we went through are just a scary dream. When we unite in the love and oneness, like we are all, no matter what we've done in our lifetime, we are welcomed. We are welcomed. We are forgiven. We are embraced. So your sister is there. Your sister is there. She is in love. It was all a scary dream. She did what she needed to do, got what she needed to out of this lifetime. We don't know what the plan is. We don't know what her soul's lesson was. We don't know. So it's okay to trust that it was what it was, and that's okay. It was what it was, and that's okay. It is what it is, and that's okay. There's something bigger that I don't understand, and it's got to be all is well. Mm.
yes, all is well. And as sad as this might sound to anybody listening, is that it's actually very peaceful that she has passed. After the big cry, and the grief cycles that anybody would go through. Um, and then the acceptance that she's at peace. She's at peace. And so we can't ask for anything more than that somebody's at peace with whatever their path was, whatever their journey was. And so, yeah, so thank you. I know, for acknowledging that pain, and I'm just so grateful that I have been able to come through that whole full cycle, that peace that she is now at that peace. She's at that peace, and that whether we experience it here now or going through the work and breaking our cycles and our unhealthy patterns, releasing all that stuff that's kind of trapped within us, but finding that level of peace. And I think though life brings and will continue to bring different challenges to myself, to you, to many of the listeners, is that there's a peace knowing that it works itself out. And if I pause and listen and really pay attention and honor myself, even if I get caught up for, a couple weeks on something, right? Feel like you're spinning about something. It's never, you can always stop. You can always stop and take that moment, or, clear your calendar. Do it. Right? Like, are you keeping yourself overly busy to not look at it? Sometimes it just takes a couple hours on something and you're like, oh, that's all that was. Okay. What am I so worked up about? What am I so sad about? Right. Sometimes that process is short, sometimes it's long. But uh, what I what I want to kind of start to wind this down is that, what if you had one thing from all of our talk, because we've been on this is going to be multi episodes, right? Of sharing our discussion. If somebody has one takeaway from all of the areas that we've covered, what would be your takeaway for them?
Whew. Okay, I think it's tied with two. I'm sorry. I really tried to make it one. But one, your inner wisdom knows exactly what it needs. And it is so, so important to honor it and listen to it and follow it and courageously act as an ally for it. We talked about it when talking about the example you gave of I really want to stay home tonight and I got this invite to go out and I don't really want to go. So should I say no, or how do I say no? So that's where the topic came up, but like really kind of honing that into like one huge takeaway. It is like your soul, your inner wisdom knows exactly what it needs. It has the medicine you're looking for. It'll guide you exactly to where you're wanting to go. Sometimes listening to it involves putting you in uncomfortable situations where you have to say no to something else or make adjustments in your life in order to be able to honor and follow that wisdom. But it is so crucial, so important, a must. It's a must. If you really want what you're wanting to get out of life, which is that peace, confidence, abundance, fulfillment, flourishing in your life, seriously, just straight up peace. Like, honor yourself, period. Takes a lot of courage, but you need muster up the courage. And then the other thing, kind of like it just flows right into, is put a stake in the ground. Like, if you, all the things that you say you're wanting out of your life, the joy, the happiness, the fulfillment, the peace, freedom from the cycles, freedom from the patterns, if you really want healing, if you really want peace, if you really want fulfillment, if you really, really want to get more out of life, put a stake in the ground. Make some very clear and impactful action toward that, telling the universe, I want this, I'm committed to it, I'm willing to do whatever it takes.
That, I love that. Put a stake in the ground. And that they all have, listening to their own innate wisdom. Two very, very powerful tips. Thank you. Could not agree with you more. Yay! We're so in alignment. We're such soul sisters. Connected at a level that
Definitely.
everybody should have. Everybody should have a Debbie Erin relationship where you can fully show up, be vulnerable, and have fun at the same time.
Yeah.
Like we have fun too.
Yeah.
But we can go into these deep conversations, and I'm hoping as everybody is listening to them that they're going to find a nugget that's in here that's really going to apply to themselves. So, Erin, how, if somebody is really feeling drawn and they want to reach out to you, what would be the best way for them to be able to do that?
Great, thank you. Okay, so I'm all about helping you tune into the universe, connect with your guardian angels, become that higher version of yourself, radiate your confident self, and manifest the life you dream of. So if you feel drawn to me, it would be my honor to walk beside you on this journey. There's a couple ways that you can reach out. One, I think I want to point you in this direction first. Weeklyguidanceforyoursoul.com. And that is an opportunity for you to sign up and receive for free weekly angel readings. So every week I tune into what the angels have to say for the upcoming week. I make a video, sign up, you'll get it in your email inbox. It'll really support you in getting familiar with my work, what it's like when I'm communicating with the angels, and get a feel for the types of things that they say. Again, that's weeklyguidanceforyoursoul.com. My website in general is erinannbarcellos.com. And there you'll see a list of the different services I'm offer. You can contact me directly through the website. And then something exciting that I have coming out this month, in the month of August 2021, is a short ebook, 7 Principles for Overcoming Obstacles. I'm really excited about it. And whenever you listen to this, you could probably go right to my website, erinannbarcellos.com, and you should see a way to get that ebook download on my website.
That's wonderful. And I'm also going to ping here too that I'm going to put in notes too, as well as the retreat that I'm doing
Yes.
at
Yes.
debbiemcallister.com, DEBBIEMCALLISTER.com for the retreat where you are one of my featured, speakers, goddesses, co-creators of this retreat in May 2022 at Lake Tahoe, because there are payment plans, right, to be able to join. Actually, I have payment plans up to 9 months. So even after the retreat where they can continue. So because I really want people to go through this process, and if they feel called to see what we do, what we co-create together, that they're able to do that too. So I'll include all of that in the show notes, the highlight of the notes to get their free weekly listings out there from you directly into their mailbox, as well as all of the other magical ways to work with you. And I am so honored that we had the time in our busy schedules to sit here and just have the conversations that you and I just have. And I
Oh,
invite in anybody who is drawn to listen to these conversations, to share this with somebody who might need to hear this. Or if you feel called to work with Erin or to join us next May, know that we welcome you and we
yeah,
welcome your commitment to yourself.
yeah. And we love you unconditionally and are super here waiting with open arms.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Erin, so much.
Yeah, thank you.